just like that Incredibles intro, it's Wednesday Night Tech Talk Live, brought to you by WAF Racing.
And remember, this Saturday, he's having the open house at WAF Racing in Springfield, Tennessee. If you didn't see that, go back to our last live, or if one of the mods wants to put it up there. And it's going to be an open house. Go and check it out. It's going to be awesome. I'll be there. So
Dude,
come on.
I will not make it. My son has a birthday party to go to from 12 to 2, which is like literally right in the meat and potatoes of that thing.
Right.
And it would take me 2 hours to drive there from where I'm at. So I'm not going to make it.
This is actually going to be the last drive of the Lizard King with an automatic. This is it. This is the last one.
The last hurrah.
The last hurrah. And I'm going to do my due diligence of getting the exact mileage on it, because I know I'm going to drive there again. So this way I was hoping to have it done by the next time, but I'm going to get the mileage and get the time and get everything, so that way I can do an apples to apples comparison. So
well, I guess that's probably what you need to do if you're going to go from an automatic to a manual. I'm still thinking you're going to get. I think on the highway it'll be negligible almost. It'll be like 1 to 2 miles to the gallon. But in town, I think is where you're going to gain huge.
I agree. The average is going to be bigger. You know what I mean?
Yep. All right. Well, to kick this thing off from the top, we got Bruce Coltgen in here. John Wilburn was second at 5:29 p.m. KS Skyhawk. Colleen Tebow was in here. Miss Catchy. SSR Performance, who's ready to eat some dirt on a monkey bike. Did you see the picture that he posted about? I don't know if that's legitimately for the monkey bikes or not. I have no idea.
Doesn't matter. I'm telling you right now, the shenanigans are going to go down on that thing.
I'm sure. Well, I mean, can you imagine the slow race on that?
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's going to be people falling they're going to be falling down all over the place. Matthew Ward is here. Fab Race Mod Repeat. Slant Daily Garage. Lumpy Wi-Fi B is here. Clint Street Machines. He says he's not wearing any pants.
Oh, no mas pantalones.
Dr. Go is here. Kerosene Cucumbers, the rockinest name on YouTube. I mean, it can only get better with like acetone cucumbers.
You know what I did last night? As I watched Mr. John Wilburn, he brought in mostly Mopar. I think it was mostly Mopar. And I watched that guy go from, it was actually really cool. I've watched him before, but I was never like super involved. And I watched him go and get his 500 subs. And that was actually really cool. And it happened rather fast, but that was actually interesting. I'm going to watch more of those.
Okay. I didn't even know that happened.
Dude, I didn't either. Actually, I was just sitting down, and all of a sudden it just popped up that I think it was like a gorilla thing, because it just popped up. It's John Wilburn's live. I said, let me check this out. And all of a sudden, boom, there it is.
Huh. Well, Junkyard D is here. Bigfoots and Mopars is here. Dan's Garage is here. SSR Performance says, shout out to all the Triple Crown gearheads. Andrew Nelson is here. Good evening from Team Nivlac 57. You guys are killing it on YouTube. Let's see. Levi's Backyard Performance. Hey, man, I'm repping again. Oh, man. Straight out of the buyback check.
I got something right here. This is Mr. Dylan Levi right here. And that is his Triple Crown car. And he's putting in a rear end in right now as we speak. So,
dude, I didn't get that memo.
He's 704. So that was literally this second. So, yeah.
Dang,
so I'm going to give him a little heart. But, yeah, so that's what he's doing right now. So he's probably listening to us and working on the car.
I got some update on my Triple Crown, too. Look at this. Can you see that? Can you see that? There you go. There's my 9.3 Pontiac Olds mounted in my little Buick with some shocks on it. Well, with a shock on it. I don't know how do I flip it around? Can I flip it? There we go. How is that? Better?
Oh, yeah. Full John Wilburn right there. There.
Yeah. And check this out. Well, I already showed you this, but bingo. Oh, okay. Go correct. Do it incorrect. There we go. There's my header for today. I got the passenger side header all fabbed up, and I extended the collector out to 18 inches.
Yeah.
So,
I'll tell you guys, I was actually telling Dallas this. I think it was this morning, or was it the other morning? I remember, but I haven't had any desire to work on Plan Z at all. Like literally none. I just lost interest in it. But it was funny because I had to move it out of my working spot in the garage, and I was putting it into another spot. And seeing the car on all wheels and like sitting down and rolling, it literally hasn't rolled since I rolled it back into the garage to put all the gear underneath it and all the new suspension and all the brakes. And it was just like, and now the transmission's in it and the drive shafts in it, and it all like it turned
So-
really.
That was my goal with the Buick when you guys came over and helped me get it done. I was hoping to have it like kind of bolted together.
Yeah,
I could roll it around and then kind of get that breath of fresh air. Like, oh man, now it's time for like my second wind.
right.
Let's go tackle. Yeah, because I really wanted to be able to move the thing. But that's in just a few weeks. I'll be able to move it. Finally, it will be out of its I don't know, jack stand purgatory that's
Prison.
been
It's
in
jack
for like
stand
3
prison.
years, 4 years now. Yeah, 5. I don't know.
Yeah, so I saw mine roll. So like now I'm motivated to put the stick shift in this car, and as soon as I'm done with that, I literally am probably going to get back on Plan Z. And if I get motivated on it, the engine's built, everything's done. I literally just got to put a cage, do some wiring, and make it running. So I don't know. It might happen faster, you think? So
Well, we got Mean Street Mopar flew in here, Lout Burns, Unity Motorsports Garage, Andy, John Murphy, Clayton's Toolbox, and I think I'm caught up now. I think that's everyone that's in the house. Oh, and Buick Smith just popped in. So
awesome.
yeah. Clint's saying, what city is WAF in? He's in Springfield, Tennessee, which is like 2 hours north of me.
Yeah, if you go to WAF Racing on Facebook and like it, he actually posted a meet and greet on there, and then he has his address right there. I did post it last week. And if I can find it when we're talking here later, I will post it up here again. But it's in Springfield, and it's right on Main Street there. It's like right in the middle of town, right by the town square. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I need to I need to start filming the stuff I do on this little Buick because things are starting to come together now. So Dylan Levi is saying, dude, heck yeah, Dallas, can't wait to see you sidestep the clutch. I can't wait to sidestep the clutch either.
So here it is right here. So it's WAF Racing Hangout, and if you screenshot that right, is it right there? Yeah, right there. And it's from 10 to 4.
Yeah, 10 to 4.
10 to 4. WAF Racing Hot Rod Hangout. So yeah, you'll get to see over there. Just don't look too closely at his CUDA because he's got some secret parts on there. So we're gonna make sure to keep that on the ground so nobody looks underneath it. But yeah, so he's got some cool stuff going on over there.
Well, SSR Performance is saying, what rear end you going with, Levi? Hopefully you ditched the 10 bolt. And then Dylan Levi saying, it's a secret. I wasn't able to get one donated, so we had to go with what I could find.
Perfect.
And then he said, it's basically a semi rear end.
That's awesome. I did show a quick picture of it, but I don't think anyone could notice it because I made sure that the glare was just in the right spot.
Dude, it'd be cool if he went with a 9.3 Pontiac Colts.
Dude, right? After everyone saw that thing, there's no way you're going to break that thing ever.
No, it's a monster.
Not with this level of performance, you're ever going to break it.
Yeah, well, you know what's interesting is Chris Cox told me that, and that's, if you don't know Chris Cox, it's Fab Race Mod Repeat here in the chat. He said that some cars in the mid 70s from Ford came with a 10-inch.
What?
Did you know Ford made a 10-inch rear end?
Never heard of
Yeah,
it.
and then there's some cars like Lincolns and Cougars and stuff that had a 10-inch rear end in them. Wow. And
Yeah,
I kind of wonder if anybody makes anything for them.
I don't honestly. I don't know.
Google it now.
Yeah, I'm going to Google it. But you know what? The thing is, though, is that an obscure rear end like that, parts would be hard. I love the 8 3/4 if I'm under 600 horse, and if I'm over 600 horse, a Ford 9-inch just for me because I like being able to change the center sections. That's just my opinion. It's not right or not wrong. It's just what I like.
Yeah, well, and so James is saying, man, as much as I like being competitive, I'm equally as pumped to see Dallas and Dylan making good progress. Yeah, me too. I think we really need to sit down and figure out some kind of time frame to come up there and just do some dyno thrashing too at SSR Performance, where everybody throws $100 in the hat or whatever, and we just thrash them all day and eat some, I don't know, burgers or some sausages or something, and hang out and just Spin the stories.
Dude, I'm down for that. Even if I don't even bring a car, I'm just good to go up there, camp out for the weekend, and have fun. That sounds like awesome.
Let's
Oh,
see.
right here, Andrew's saying it.
9 3/8 was Ford's biggest car rear. Oh, I'm telling you, I think he told me there was a 10-inch. So I could be wrong.
James saying he's ready. Just name the day.
Man, we do need to figure that out. So let's decide then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to. What do you
You
think?
have your car running.
Well, no, hold on. Running and going down the track capable is completely two different things.
That's why I said running. I just want to say down the track running, because that way you can put it on a dyno. That's running. That's different.
Mine can be running in a matter of hours.
Okay.
Right? Like I have a fuel system, somewhat, and then I just need some wires, right? And I need a cooling system.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's about all it's going to have on it. It won't have any of the sheet metal on it. I mean, I'm literally just going to load it up, haul it up there, and then throw it on the dyno and see what happens. I'll maybe drive around the parking lot a little bit so it gets some miles on the rear end. But I don't know. I guess he's you know what, James, what's good for you guys is like, I don't want to take any business away from you, but I also don't want to make you open up on a day that you're not normally open, right? Make you work extra hours. But I think it would be cool if we came up there and like, if it was a day that you're not normally open, and then we just have a good time, or it's a day that's just slow for you, which is fine. But everybody just throws in a few $100 and we'll just make a whole day of it. Oh, so Bruce Kultgen saying that Lincoln rear end, because I guess it was a Lincoln, was weak in the pinion support.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
John Murphy is asking you, is Edelbrock making anything for the Ram 6.4 Hemi?
Well, the 6.4 is 6.4. Really, the only difference between them is going to be the intake on those, and sometimes the exhaust manifolds. But we're always coming up with new stuff. There's always something coming out, and I can't really talk about a lot of stuff. You usually got to ask me these questions right after. Well, actually, the Monday before SEMA, I can talk about it.
All right. Well, I mean, are you guys currently making anything for them?
Oh, yeah. Oh, we got some cool stuff coming out, but I can't talk about it. I can't tell you what it is.
Well, no, I mean that right now you're currently making something. That's what I'm saying. That like stuff that's already being sold.
What's already being sold? Well, I don't. There's so much stuff I don't even know where to begin. Because I only deal with what's new. I mean, I only design the new stuff. So. When I'm the new product, I'm one of the new product design engineers. So it really is, as the new stuff comes on and I'm working on that stuff for that year, then I move on to the next stuff. So there's a lot of things coming out. So it's hard to tell you about it because I can't.
Okay. So Buick Smith right below that saying Ford 8.8 or GM 8.5, which rear is generally stronger? The Ford 8.8 is virtually a Ford copy of a 12-bolt GM. It uses the same bearings, the same races. Everything is virtually the same thing.
And it works well.
They do work really well. Mm-hmm. The GM 8.5, as you know, is not a 12-bolt. And so that's why the Ford 8.8 ends up in like a lot of the S10 applications, because it's so easy to get one out of a Ranger and just cut it down and put it in the S10. And you've got virtually a bulletproof rear end. That's one thing that when I started doing this super stock car was I had guys telling me, put a 12 bolt in it, you'll never break it. I've never broken one. And there is a Southeast Gas or super stock car that runs at Sykeston called the Junkyard Dog. It's like a Chevy 2. Mm-hmm. He runs a 12 bolt in it. And I mean, it's like 538 gears, sidestep to clutch at $7,000, and that sucker holds up.
Well, the Cookie Monster was on an aluminum 8 3/4 for the longest time until I just went to Big Nitrous. And when I went to the aluminum one, I never broke a single gear. After that, I only broke one 8 3/4 one time, and I think that was because it sheared a tooth off, and I think it was just bad teeth. But I would have the rings cryo frozen and then heated, and then ever since then I never had any problems. But I would check them, inspect them every year, but still, just never broke one.
I
like
don't
this.
know. I'm looking for second place for what?
I don't know.
I'm not following. Maybe we missed half the joke or something.
Yeah.
Danny Boyd looks like he's on a bender tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Keep
awesome.
it up, buddy.
Awesome. Drink 3 for me. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
Back when we used to order them, I would ask the lady would come over and I was like, hey, could I get a margarita? And one for the wife. And they're like, yeah. And they said, hey, ma'am, could I get a margarita while I'm waiting for the first one, please?
Wow.
Yeah.
Bring them 2 at a time. Yeah.
I would do them 2 at a time. I mean,
Fabrice Monrepeat says 10-inch rear end was in 68 to 75 Lincoln bodied T-Birds and big Mercury Marquis. They did have limited gear ratio selection.
Okay.
And I imagine that's just because the ring gear is so big that you can only make the pinion so small. Right? I mean, before it moves away from generally when you have a smaller number of teeth on the pinion is when you end up with like your racing gear ratios. And it can only get so far away from the pinion.
Right. So he said he's loving it. So that's awesome.
Oh, all right. SSR Performance says we can pick a Saturday. We're not at the track for points race. I can send you some dates. All right. I'm looking forward to it, man. Just hit me up on Facebook. You got my contact info and we'll get some dates going. And I think it's kind of cool. We do just the No Name Nationals is $100 a person thrown in a hat. Good enough.
Because that would be, I'd say that's fine.
I mean, we're not looking at tuning it all day. It's more or less just like put it on there and see what it does.
And just it's for your time. Plus, it'll be a great video event. Made live stream the whole damn thing. That'd be awesome. It
would be perfect live stream. Yeah.
Yeah, live stream the whole thing. It'd be a really good event. And as long as I can spend the night there and sleep, I'm good.
So Fabrice Monrepeat says they're also found in 10-passenger wagons and a few rancheros. And I think that's where I called him because I found like a 72 or 3 ranchero.
Mm-hmm.
It may have been earlier than that. It might have been like a 70 or 69. But I was like, dude, this thing has got a humongous rear end. And he's like, yeah, they got a 10-inch Ford.
You know what? Maybe I did see one of those because it looked bigger than a Ford 9-inch. It was round on the back, almost like an 8 3/4, but
it's about the size of a wheel.
Yes, like it was massive.
15 inches.
Yeah, now that I think about it, because a Ford 9-inch, I remember looking for a Ford 9-inch, and they have a very distinct, the gear, so the oil splashes up. This thing didn't have that. It was literally a bubble in the back. It looked just like an 8 3/4, but massive.
That's where I actually called him from the junkyard, I think, and I was like, dude, have you ever seen a weird rear end like this? And he was like, that's a 10-inch Ford. And I'm like, wow. And then come to find out, they're not all that awesome.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was like, I remember looking them up going, oh, wait, hold on. Nobody runs these because they're not all that awesome.
Yeah. James saying one thing he learned about the Gen 3 Hem is P2V clearance is real mofo with stock pistons. Yes. In fact, we have custom cams designed just for that type of thing. You have the early ones and then the eagle-headed ones or the VVT style ones. But yes, it is. And in fact, that's the main reason why you would just get some pistons for those things, or pistons and rods, is so that way you can actually get some real lift and cam in those things, because it makes a huge difference on those. But yeah, normally on the factory ones, you can't really put much in them.
Well, Indecisive Garage is saying Ford made a 10 1/4 full floater. Yes, that's what I had in my F-250 was that 10 1/4 full floater, and that's a good rear end. I mean, that thing would. Remember that white Ford we picked up, and it had like 300,000 miles on it?
Yeah.
And I ended up putting a whole new drivetrain in it and changed it to a manual and crank windows and all that stuff. But anyway, that thing, the rear end was so worn out that it had when I took the cover off, I was going to change the fluid in it. You could move the wheels like a full rotation before the spider gears would actually engage.
Wow.
Right? I mean, they were like nubs.
Yeah.
That's all was left. And I ended up just ordering spider gears, put in there, and ran it. But Danny Boyd says the 8.5 was made to blow up. They're actually a lot more stout than I thought they were.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of friends running them, and they're running big block Buicks with nitrous down into the 11-second zone, and then they're not breaking 8.5s.
I'm going to be running a 7 1/4 with a 5-speed here pretty soon, and we'll see how it survives.
Yeah, never put slicks on it. You'll be fine.
Well, no, I'm going to. I'm gonna put my drag radials I have when I go to the
Oh,
track.
don't those 7 1/4s like break if the wind blows?
Well, people say that, but I've put some real power to them. We had a guy. We put one of those crate, 360s in them when Mopar made. That was a 380 horse one. He had a 7 1/4 out back, and he ran that thing for almost 4 years and dragged the shit out of it and never broke it.
Danny Boyd saying
one day just blew.
Danny Boyd saying higher numerical gears you got, the more forgiving the rear end is going to be. And I don't know. I've never had one like. I broke a 7.5-inch Ford, and that's not all that hard. But they think. I think it really depends on how much leverage the pinion has on the gear. And the larger diameter gear you have, the more leverage the pinion has.
I think it comes down to really two factors. It's really tooth engagement, so where the high point angle's at, and also too support on the pinion itself. Because if it can deflect, and you're at a bad high point angle, that's where they tend to break. That's what
you were geeking out about with the 9.3 was that the high point angle is actually pretty bitching on it.
Yeah, it was nearly at the bottom.
Yeah, it's gusseted just like the 9-inch Ford.
Yeah, you could see the pinion. It was insane. Like it was literally the pinion was just barely one little spot out. It was like it was in double shear on both sides. It was like, man, they really thought this thing out. And I was like, Dallas is never going to break this thing.
No, they were in 421 Super Duty Pontiacs.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Miss Cat G saying, is it an issue if there are no oil holes in my lifter bushes? Given they are solid rollers, I asked for 60 thou, but hey, why listen to me?
It's not going to hurt nothing.
I think that because it sounds like he's bushed the lifters, and then they're solid rollers, so it'll work fine with just splash off the crank.
Yeah, and also too now I'm assuming she's talking about a Windsor, so you know these a little better. How do they oil? Do they oil up through the push rods, or do they oil through the head?
What's that?
This engine that she's talking.
I think this is.
She's a Clevor, right?
Yeah, Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland. So does that one oil through the shaft?
I believe they oil through the push rod.
Okay, so then in that case, it could be a problem because there's going to be no oil to the rockers. If it's not,
I don't know what they're doing with that. I mean, you're right.
Yes.
If there's no oil holes feeding the lifters, even small amounts,
yes,
it won't get any oil up top. And I don't think the Cleveland head is set up to oil through the shaft, so it has to go through the push rod.
Yeah, I think so. Now on my engine, because the oil's still through the shaft, I can get around that. It's not a problem. I still have hollow push rods, so oil still comes down through the rocker. I have it set up to oil to the lifter the opposite direction, so that way I can shut all that oil off. But if you oil through that could be a big problem.
Yeah,
you might want to check that out. And I don't remember exactly what engine. I think it was a Cleveland, or if it was a Windsor with Cleveland heads, but it was something like that.
It was a Cleveland, yeah.
Yeah.
You were looking for a running triple crown. In regards to his comment from before.
Oh, okay.
About and looking for second.
Oh, okay.
I don't need a second one. No. I have enough.
I have enough too. In fact, I got to prioritize some of these.
I'm going to have to sell probably something. Let's see. The only I said I had an amazing tech question that last weekend and I didn't write it down. Boy, does my memory suck.
Dude,
well, welcome to that getting old, man. It only gets worse.
It only gets worse. You'll go into a room, stand there for a minute and leave, and then come back in, stand there again, realize that you forgot it the first time, forgot it the second time, and then get mad at yourself. And then when you realize it, it's the next day. Been there.
Let's see. Buick Smith says I was able to use a friend's lifter board grooving tool. How deep should the groove be? 20 to 40 thousandths deeper.
Okay, now on the.
Do you remember what this is in regards to?
Yeah, he's got those little balls. It's the lifter. It's the groove for the balls for the lifter, so that way it's a grooved. lifter. It's a
Oh,
group.
so that because it's a roller, so it doesn't
Yeah,
turn, right?
exactly. So in turn, what I would do is before I answer this, you got to find out whose lifter they are, and they should tell you if it's a what to exactly cut that to. Now, when I was at Crower, I know that we had a tool for that, and you would measure it, and I believe it was a 125 180 thousandths of 125 thousandths cut down in there, and it was just the radius of that, and there was three pins on the lifter to hold it in place. So you should check that out before you do that. Now, if it's just a groove for oil, 20 to 40 thousandths deep is way too much. Maybe even a thou is good, because that's a ton of oil.
Okay, John Murphy says had a lifted 79 Bronco, used to eat 9-inch rears, put a Dana 60 in it, and never had an issue. Well, the Dana 60 is like
Stronger.
that was the end all be all. That modified production cars, that was the rear end of choice. Lots of Camaros ended up with.
Yeah.
Dana
I'll tell you right now, I will be absolutely honest with you. Dana 60 will put a 4 9-inch to shame. I just like the 4 9-inch because I can change the rear end for whatever track conditions, because I've got a selection.
Dropout center section is a big plus, man.
Yes, and I like that. So I will take some of that problem and just live with it, because on a Dana 60, it is a pain in the ass to set a rear end in one of those things. And it's just a pain in the butt.
Lockburn says back in the 60s, the Oldsmobile differential was the hot ticket. Yeah. And that's what I'm running in my Triple Crown car is a 9.3 Pontiac Olds. That's what came in those cars from 58 to 64.
Yeah. Oh, I love this one. Here's a question about cylinder heads. What does softening the chamber do, and how is it done? Okay. So on the chamber, you're going to have, everyone's going to talk about squinch area or whatnot. It's going to be the flat area before the dome in the corners. Softening the chamber is basically just taking those and raising up that, cutting all the corners.
You radius them all.
Yeah, exactly. Cut all the corners so that way there's no sharp edges on anything. I do the exact same thing on the pistons too. Is I will tape the pistons where the rings go, and then I'll sandblast the top of the piston to get all the corners, anything that's sharp. You don't want any points or anything. But yeah, the biggest thing is just in the edges. And I've softened the chambers in on the Cookie Monster because I knew I was going to put some nitrous on it at some point, so that way I didn't have these big squinch pads in the side, and that's what you don't want.
All right, Paul Pahui asked a good question here. What are the telltale symptoms of a bad thrust bearing in a V8 engine? Okay, generally what it does is it just wears on the side of the thrust. So you'll still have good oil pressure, but what'll happen is you'll actually have an intermittent knock most of the time.
Yeah.
When that thing gets pushed all the way forward or all the way aft, right? And that's when it'll knock. It's not knocking the rods or anything. All it's actually doing is knocking the crank up against that the thrust bearing that's bad. They're kind of hard to troubleshoot because the symptoms aren't
all the time.
Yeah, they're intermittent, because when the crank is in, if it's in within its tolerance in the center, you won't have any issues.
And usually the flex plate, if it's on a converter, the flex plate's usually going to take up that, so you can't really tell because it's bolted to the converter. Or if it's on a flywheel, it's really hard to tell because it doesn't really move. But you can check it with on the harmonic balancer side. Is if you just get a little bit of a pry bar, and you'll feel it go in and out, and then you can basically on the window on the back, you can kind of rock them back and forth. But usually it's always going to be thrown forward, because when the converter, as far as torque,
this has become more of a problem recently.
Yes,
because a lot of it's just because of converters, right? Yeah. But the converter ends up pushing the crank forward.
Yeah, and especially with under high boost, high loads, is when you shock the converter, they tend to swell, and that's hence the word flex plate. Where on a clutch car, it's when you basically push the clutch in and you're sitting at a light, just sitting there waiting. And typically there's not extra oil. Now on on the green car, I don't have that little extra hole that I put usually in the thrust bearing. So I'm thinking I might drop the oil pan and drill a hole in that thing so I get a little extra oil to that thrust bearing, so that way if I'm sitting at a light, I don't kill the damn thrust bearing.
Oh yeah, I never really had any problems like this until people really started messing with converters, like say lockups
Yes.
and high horsepower turbo applications where it would cause the converter to balloon, or lots of nitrous.
Nitrous does it all the time. Yes.
Yeah. So,
in fact, even on my car on the Cookie Monster, I actually run a flex plate on there that's a little thinner than most, just for that reason. So that way, if that thing hits hard and it swells, it allows it to flex back and forth. It doesn't matter if you put anti-ballooning plates on or anything. It's because there's so much fluid going into it, into the pump area, and it's trying to push that converter forward, and that's what's happening. Indirect connections in the 7 1/4 seems to kill spider gears. They just seem to wear out. I agree with you. And it's funny because I just changed mine when I got here. I collect those rear ends. I've got about 3 of them here on the side yard. And I'll take the spider gears out, and it's the pin. It will get a little loose in the carrier. And then you take that out, put those in there, and you're usually pretty good after that.
Let's see here. Andrew Nelson. Indecisive Garage says, I'm putting a 10-inch Yukon third member in my F-150 fab rear end. Wow. That thing's going to be stout. It's going to be really healthy. I don't know why. I guess those trucks needed a large rear end because they were heavy. But man, did they make a lot of power. I remember when those things came out, and it was like a pulley change, and they were running 990s. Oh, maybe a Canon air filter.
Right.
Yeah, they were fast. Let's see. Andrew Nelson says the metallurgy of modern rears is a simple factor in strength. I always wondered, because I'm pretty certain that the 8.8 Ford is made with compacted graphite impregnated iron like they do on a diesel block. I'm almost certain the 8.8 is. Because the reason why I say that is I had a stock 8.8, and it broke the pin in the center, right? And I mean, I was at the top end of the track, and that pin slid down, and it locked the housing, and the carrier together, because it wedged itself in between the housing and the carrier, and it locked the rear end at like 100 miles an hour with slicks on at the top end of the track, and did not break the rear end housing. I'm certain that those cast housings are made of something just absolutely insane strong.
Yeah, we're a little far behind. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here.
Fabrice Mon Repeat says Cleaver lifter bushings need holes. Cleveland and Windsor oil through the push rod.
So it needs holes in on both of them.
Yeah.
Andrew Nelson saying that I didn't know this. Dana 60 is highest you can get. Gear ratio is 354. That's the highest available. I did not know that. I didn't know that.
That makes sense because it only came in 1-ton trucks before it became a racing application.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I really didn't know that. But thanks for that, because I never really messed with the Dana 60. I only built one in my life, and then after that, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go back to the 9 inches. Yeah, once again, don't forget to go show the channel sponsor some love. Go check them out.
Oh, and so Andrew Nelson brings up a real nugget of wisdom here. Thrusts are getting hurt because charge pressures are too high. We spend a lot of time making sure the line pressure is high and the charge pressure is low.
That's what I was saying. It's the fluid coming into the converter,
right?
Because it's
trying to be a hydraulic press, right?
Exactly.
Fluid does not compress, and then that transmission is being run by the engine, so the engine's going to just push it. So it pushes the converter forward.
And that's the beauty of the ZF8 HP, is because the charge presser, it's got 3 circuits that go into the converter. It's got a fill circuit, it's got a lockup circuit, and a discharge circuit. So most of them only have 2, in and out, right? And some will have a in and a lockup, but that one actually has 3, and it's always being filled. What's nice about that too is that is that the only time it's actually going out of the pump straight into the converter, out of the converter into the cooler is when it's slipping. That's usually in first and second gear. Somewhere in second and a half is where it locks up. Then it basically comes out of that, goes through the pumps, and then goes through the cooler. So that way it keeps the charge pressure pretty low on that for that. But it also can keep the line pressure high. On the older ones, like on my Glide or a 904, you crank that pressure up to, like, say, 190 pounds, but that's 190 pounds now everywhere. So you're basically putting that right into the converter, and it's basically it's pushing it forward, and you exacerbate that by 8,000 RPM.
In the surface area of that converter
is massive.
If it's humongous, right? So if you're taking, like, let's say it's 190 psi, that's pounds per square inch. Right. So it's pushing the surface area of that converter 190 pounds per square inch. And if it's a 10-inch converter, that's what, 1,900 pounds?
But it's only going to be on the pump on this part, because that's the only part, that's the actual pump where the fluid's coming in at. That's the only surface area it's going to see, because that's
so 3 inches there. Right. Yeah. But that's still quite a bit of surface area.
It's massive. Yes. But when you're dealing with 190 pounds of pressure going in there, you math that out, and then you exacerbate that by the charge pressure going in, like under boost or under nitrous, where it's under a load. That makes a huge difference.
Well, and I think that's what a lot of the turbo guys were playing with, was the dump charge valve pressure, and they have a dump valve, right?
Yep,
that
exactly
dumps charge pressure.
Yep.
Okay. So let's see. Fab Race Mod Repeat, Shane Dallas, converter swell. Don't forget the anti-balloon converters. The anti-balloon is what fixed a lot of the nitrous stuff in the late 90s, early 2000s. But now they're going to full billet converters to get away from it. Still is going to swell. It just won't swell as much. It'll split before it swells.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Shane Garage is asking, Shane, I'm curious, why did you go with the Indy W2s instead of the Victor heads? Actually, I have the Indy 360-1 heads, and here's the reason. It's because the Victor heads, now me and Dallas have been talking about making this Triple Crown class for a while, and I wanted to build an engine for it. The Victor heads have a different angle on the valve. 2, it's got a raised intake port. Now, it can bolt up to factory intakes, but it does have a higher port on it. Now, my 360-1s are the early versions, so it's got the factory valve angle, plus the bottom of the port is not a raised port, still in the factory location, but it's just taller and wider. So technically, it's not a raised port. So that way, I could still run those in one. If I were to do an engine competition, I could still use those heads. 2, it's got a factory valve, so I could still use those in a Triple Crown engine if I decided to build one. And that was it. But I got those things back in 2005. Now, I do have a set of Victor heads. What I'm going to do with them, I don't know, because I don't really. It's a different angle, so my piston is designed for my angle, which is a factory valve angle. Those I think are at 15 degrees, I believe. So it's
Mopars are normally 18, so it 18. Would be laid back more. At 15 is probably the number.
Yeah, it's 15 is the number, and I believe is what it is, and that's the main reason. But there's still things to come. Keep track of what I'm saying now. Things can change, and just know that. Just know that things can change, and this is a future prequel to something else. So.
Well, Fab Race Mod Repeat says down at 737 Dallas, 8.8 housings at one time were made of nodular iron. I think you may be correct on the later ones being gray iron. I thought, well, I guess they could have been a nodular iron in the early years, like in 85 on up. Isn't that when they came out with that thing? Somewhere around there, because they got rid of the Ford 9-inch went away like in 84, and then the trucks got the 8.8 in like 85.
Yeah. And I think the best thing is when they had 8.8 hit that Explorer. I think that was the best thing ever.
Explorer, yeah. Well, yeah. The neat thing was the Fox body platform. Everybody always thought was the Mustang was the only place to get the 8.8 and the Fox body platform, but the Cougar XR7 and the Turbo Coupe Thunderbird came with them with rear disc brakes. So,
yeah.
Oh, Andrew Nelson says it's 86. Okay, so I knew it was somewhere around there. They stopped doing the 9-inch Ford and went to the 8.8. And the 8.8 is actually been a really good rear end for Ford for all these years ever since then. That's what almost every V8 application from Ford came with that.
So Andrew's saying that they're limited to 170 with a Dana. 9 inches have 2 and 3 low series gears. Oh. Oh, 1986. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Let's see here. Go back up here. Let's see if I missed any things.
I don't think we missed anything. We're blowing through it. We caught all up, and then now there's no more questions.
Yes. Fab Race Model repeat. Dana 60 gear swap, a pain in the ass. Shane said 100%. However, it is a tough gear. Yeah, if you find your gear number, you're golden. Leave it alone. Like for Dallas, if he had a Dana, that'd be perfect because that way he could put it in there and it's done. But people like for me, where I could change the gear depending if I want to do 1/8 mile or a 1/4 mile or whatever, because it's got a glide in it, so I could set it up for that. And it's easy. It's an afternoon change then at that point.
I always just set mine up for the 1/4 and whatever runs in the 1/8 it runs.
I agree with you until I started going into the 5s.
Well, yeah, you need the proper gear.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess I don't know. This 9.3 is actually kind of cool because it comes with you could get 277 gears in that thing, right? But you can get all the way up to 538s in it.
I agree with this because I've actually been doing some cast iron work here, and he says, yeah, my buddy runs an electron microscope, and you should see the difference in the nodular iron compared to the gray cast. It is awesome. I agree with that because I've seen it, and it's amazing the grain structure difference between the two. It really is.
That's the compacted graphite one. That's the stuff that I really see. Okay, I'll let everybody know here. I'm going to go to college this fall. This is I'm going to go to a real college.
Good for you.
Yeah, but I wanted to learn metallurgy, and they don't teach anything about that. And I don't know anywhere that does.
Well, you can learn a lot if you get a mechanical engineering degree. You have a cool class. You actually have 2 classes on metal.
On metallurgy.
Yes, absolutely. There's classes just on that because you have to learn how, what does heat do to it? How does tempering work? Why does annealing do this? And it's actually a lot of it has to do with thermodynamics too. So you actually do the metallurgy when you're in thermodynamics because that tells you how heat transfers through metal and what it does to metal.
Huh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Racer Race says he has a transmission tech question. Okay,
blast
shoot.
Away. Yeah, blast away.
Fab Race Mod repeats says the Lincoln Mark 7 had the 8.8 with rear disc brakes too. It did, yes. I forgot about that one. That's the outlier. As a matter of fact, there's somebody that did a video just recently on Facebook where they got a Lincoln Mark 7 LSC, a 90 model in the junkyard, and this thing was clean. I was surprised, and it's complete. And the guy's like, yeah, I get 5,000 likes on this, and I'll see if I can get it running. I'm like, damn, the car had a key. It came in with a title and a key. And I'm like, I would have sold it. What? Buick Smith saying, how about the winner's quick change? Okay for hard launch, drag racing, or just roundy round and road race? I was always told it was only good for roundy round and road race. And then when I started seeing drag and drives,
yes,
guys were using them, and they are just absolutely perfect because they're stout. And you just pull that rear cover, swap the gears. You just take them and flip flop them.
That's exactly what a lot of people do.
241 to a 410.
Yeah, and a lot of them now they have the covers that are O-ringed, so there's no gasket on them, and so you can and if you jack them up high enough, if he goes, this one guy actually could jack it up high enough to where it wouldn't lose any oil. He could just push them out, pull them out, switch them, and jack it back down. But he goes, most of them you just drain it out and you pump it right back in. You get a clean container and pump it right back in.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah, but I love the Winners rear ends, and in fact, if I didn't have an overdrive and I wanted to do it on the cheap, if I could find a Winners, I would just do that and just change the gears on it and call it good.
So Racer Race saying, transmission tech question on a 4L60E, is the line pressure and charge pressure separately adjustable with the PCM, or is it a spring change?
No,
And
those now. Once again, there's someone can correct me on this, but to my knowledge, they're on the same. They're on the same system. Now you do have two different. You do have pulse modulated width, as far as for the converter, for the charge pressure, for the line pressure, and then you have one that's just a switch. And so there's two different versions of that, and I know that because on our ECM that we have controls them. You choose between the two.
94 or 95 is the changeover year. That's the weird year.
Okay, that's
one by itself. That's the pulse width modulated one. And I think
Yes.
everything after that is just switch control.
switch control. Okay. Now, I can't answer that 100%, but I can tell you that I do know that when we're checking these transmissions on our dyno, we're not checking two different lines. We're actually just checking line pressure on these, to see how it's shifting. And there's really no way to check charge pressure then, because charge is going right in. Now, some on that transmission, on other transmissions you can, but on that one you can't. At least to my knowledge, you can't.
Man. So, Andrew Nelson saying, if you watch the video that we assembled at Dana, we had to machine our own shim to get everything to work. It's an S60. Oh, yeah, I've seen those before. That's
Yeah.
a Strange 60 is what it is.
Yeah.
It's literally a Dana 60 made by Strange.
Yeah, they suck, dude.
Yeah, I wonder, if since they re-engineered the whole thing, why did Strange not engineer it where it had a dropout front section? Like, couldn't you cast all that together? Well, I guess it wouldn't be a Dana 60 any longer.
Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't be Dana 60. That's what makes it so strong, is that, I actually had a tool. I bought a tool that bolts into it, and he would actually bend the axle slightly forward. It's only like maybe 2 or 3 thousandths, just so you could get that that
Oh,
center
yeah, the
section.
case spreader.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically it's a case bender, and you bend it back, and it tells you that you only 2 rotations of this, and otherwise they'll permanently bend it. And it was just, I didn't like it. It made me nervous doing that one.
Dude, I'm kind of wondering if you can do it with heat instead of just spread it, because spreading it seems so caveman.
But
Right,
you're
like-
doing it at the axle, or actually at
No,
the center
I've
section.
seen it before. It bolts
Yeah.
on the flange.
Yeah, exactly. It bolts right on the center section. You basically push it like this, and then it comes right back. So it's kind of designed for that. So, Ray, to answer your question, yes, you should get a trans brake. I agree. Always get the trans brake.
Ray, I think you should put a Turbo 400 behind that LS and forget about the 4L60E.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, they always cost me a lot of money. Well, I don't know. I never had a trans brake. Even my T-Bird does not have a trans brake. If I had a trans brake on the T-Bird, it would probably be a 10th quicker.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You got to find the launch on it, but yeah, it's about a 10th quicker. I picked up about a 10th on the trans brake. Absolutely.
Lori Conboy says, is there ET brake or car weight when transmission brakes help performance? Well, they'll always help a performance. That's actually what we were just talking about here. We're saying it was worth a 10th, and it allows you to capitalize and get everything out of the converter. I don't remember what you call it, the torque
K value.
multiplication delta or whatever it is.
The K value. So yeah,
K
basically K value. So yeah, what I like about them too is that you can get your throttle blades are really wide open, so the torque of the engine, because that's what you're using, is already high. You're not down here and then going up. It's already there, and you're holding the converter, and all the fluids go in there. You're basically engaging two first and reverse at the exact same time, and then you're just dumping reverse. And so it's just a dump. It just dumps, so that way it's already engaged, and that way you can stay basically on the sprag longer. And that's actually what it does, is that and you can adjust at what point, so you can flash the converter harder each time or take it away. So you can go right up against the converter, so there's little flash, or you can drop it back a thou or so, and then you can flash the converter harder, and that way you can carry the K value out longer. So yes, but the suspension has to be set up for that, because I can tell you that when I went to a trans brake, my super stock springs with the pinion number just didn't work anymore because I hit the suspension too hard. It wasn't designed for that, and had to go to a Caltrax. So I always tell people shit rolls downhill. So if you get a trans brake, your suspension is going to have to be adapted to work for that.
Main Street Mopar says, I thought about driving my Dodge D100 to No Name. I've got a 276 center section for my 8 3/4 and then swapping the 391 with a spool at the track.
Perfect.
That's, in all honesty, that's exactly how they used to do the super stock Dodges. What Don Garlitz tells the story because the local Dodge dealership contacted him when he was running dragsters, and super stock was fairly newish. They were trying to get in with the 62, 63 max wedge stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they contacted him, and he ran a car just like that, and he would drive it to the event. He would pull in at the dealership. They'd pull the center section out, put like a 513 in it, and then he would just go to the track, race it, drive it back to the dealer. They put the 276 gear back in, and he'd drive it home to Florida.
Yeah, if you're going to do that, I would just think about putting some green bearings in there just for that. Because it just makes it easier. That way you could just pop them out and lay them to the side, and you don't have to worry about tearing your seals. Because I've done them both ways. Because I was a poor racer my whole life. Here's the second thing: if you're going to do that, on the 8 3/4, when you take the center section out, put a on every single one of mine. You'll see this. I actually drill and tap an 1/8 inch pipe plug into that, so that way I can take the plug out and I can drain the oil into a nice container, and that way when I pull it out, there's not a big sloppy mess, and then that way it can be a nice clean thing. And then you can put the plug back in, take the center section out, put it back in, pour the fluid back in, call it good. Third thing, put the fill on the back of the case, and then take the plug out, so that way you know where to fill it out. That way, just put the plug up on top, so that way it's easy to fill back in. Those are quick tips, because that's literally how I did it, and made it really simple.
I tell you what, the last 2 times I've done a rear end stuff, I got those bags, the bag oh dude, whoever came up with that is a genius. Why did they not come up with that like years ago?
I hate that pump thing, and just your shoulders burning and they're on fire.
Well, I always used to do it with a hose, right? You get a hose, and then you just tilt. You can move it wherever you want, and then stick the hose in the inlet, and then just squeeze the thing and squeeze all the oil out. But it's so much easier with the bag.
Beautiful.
The bag is not restricted by space.
No, it's awesome. And I put a little hose on the bag, shove it in there. It's just awesome.
Andrew Nelson says the winners that are good for drag racing are a specific model. It's not a roundy round rear.
Yes, agreed.
So I remember the first time I saw that was at Sick Week, and the Bucket List Mob had that in their the 65 Fairlane they run. And I'm like, dude, how is that thing not blown up? I mean, the Winters is meant for circle track racing. And he's like, these things are pretty stout. And I'm like, okay. Well, and then he went up there and ran tires up, 960 or something. And I'm like, golly, I guess that Winters does hang up. So,
yeah. Andrew's saying that they made their own case spreader. And then right below it, Racer Ray said he's used the case spreader quite a bit, never had an issue. Always use the dial indicator to show spread. Yes, exactly, because there's a spec on that, and you can literally bolt it on there when you spread it. To me, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze by changing gears on those, because it was such a pain in the butt. And if you don't have the right shims, like Andrew was saying earlier, they had to machine their own stuff. And if you just don't have the shims, you don't have the shims. Where the 8 3/4 for me, I can spin them. I can adjust it with it actually spins, and I made a custom tool just for that, so that way I can crank it down on one side and there's very little shims.
Andrew Nelson says 4L60E equals 7 or 4 neutrals in short order. But if you go down to Hot Rod Guy Garage, Russell says if you do a 4L60E bad enough, you'll have 7 neutrals.
The biggest problem with the 4L60E is going into overdrive under full throttle. That's the biggest issue with them. 1, 2, and 3, not a problem. It's the 4th gear, because 2 and 4th are run by the same band, and that's where it just doesn't like that.
The AOD does not like that either. I found that out. That pencil shaft in the center will twist up like a freaking Twizzler.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Fab Race Mod Repeat. Dallas, no heat to the Dana 60. It can make them crack. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, but I never put heat to them. I just used the case spreader. I didn't know that either. I like Miss Kanji's right here saying, I'm really um, oh, can you grab that? Sorry.
Yeah. Sound real compliced, and he has one. Don't drag race manuals are the go.
Yeah. I think she meant to say complicated. Sorry, I got, you swallow that thing and it kind of hits right on your. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think,
on street cars, Shane and I talk about this all the time. I
Yeah.
think a daily street car, dude, you're already doing the grind anyway.
yeah.
Why
Make it
not
fun.
be fun?
Exactly. And that's why the green car is getting, the Lizard King is getting a T5 stick shift in it, and I'm going to be just happy with it. I'm going to be totally fine with it.
Let's see.
Dylan, there's a towboat sitting on the sidelines waiting for it.
It's going to need it because that 7.5, it's going to give up the ghost here soon.
Yeah.
They didn't like the 5.7 LS, and you're cramming it with a 6-liter.
Yeah.
Okay, so Andrew Nelson's saying down at the bottom, buy the big fill plug and install it where you can inspect the gears. So that's probably like almost in the middle of, well, it'd be middle of the pumpkin.
Yeah. And that's the best. It's I take it right out and I can look right in there. And that's why I have the fill plug, and it works great. And even on the Cookie Monster, I have a fill plug on the back just for that too. So I can put, you can actually physically look at them and turn it, or you can actually put a scope in there and get really good. But yeah, that's exactly why I do it too, for inspections. Andrew, the $50 4L60E lasted through 1 year of abuse from me. It shouldn't have.
Yeah, I think most of the 4L60E shouldn't have lasted past like the production line, but some of them did.
Yeah.
When they go, they just go.
Yeah, they just become neutrals.
Yeah. That was what happened to my S10. I got it working, and then one day I went out and started it up, and it had no gears.
Yeah.
I'm like, what in the world?
I agree with Andrew Nelson on this. Until someone makes a 3.0 or 3.25 ratio, the Dana 60 just is not worth the headache for fast cars that have tire height restrictions. You just don't have enough leg to put the top end over 170 miles an hour.
Yeah, when you guys are doing turbo applications, that's where you need it at. That's where it all comes in at.
Yeah, that's right. Because you want to load that thing. You want that thing as loaded as possible, just like nitrous. That's why I went to a nitrous. Is the second you hit it, that's when you're making max torque. You just want to keep that thing carrying down the road. Wow. And that's why I love the Glide for nitrous, is because that way you can just right out of the gate, you can just load that thing up, and you're just hitting it and going.
I remember doing the nitrous thing in the early 2000s, and the big one I found out was the converter. The tighter you could get the converter, the better it would work, right?
Yep.
And so I showed up at the track, and I don't remember I was running. I think there was I can't remember. I think it was a 650 index class, and I ran the 650 index with 302 and a bunch of nitrous, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the guys were talking about converters, and somebody had some high-end converter. They were like, "Oh, what do you got?" And I'm like, "Oh, you don't want to know." And he was like, "Well, yeah, go ahead." And I'm like, "I got a Ford van converter, right?" And that was like,
it's the best,
highest you could get from the factory, right?
Yeah.
It was really, and I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Donut balloon?" I'm like, "Probably,"
But I'm with you on this, because I would take it. I would tell everyone, if you're 150 shot, now at least for my cars, this is just my car, weight and everything makes a difference, and tire size and so on and so forth. But usually 150 horsepower is worth about 1,000 more RPM on your converter. That's what I've kind of noticed. And so I would drive around with like a 2000 stall with a big cam. People are like, man, and I'm just like, yeah, and it didn't sound right because it barely would get into its torque band. But the second you would release that button, it all of a sudden now it's like 3,500 or 3,200. It's wham! It's hitting that converter because it's putting all that instant torque to it.
That's what I liked about the nitrous, was leaving the line was like having a trans brake and a clutch all at the same time.
It was
because
like
it would be just like hitting you with a hammer. Like you remember the wrecking balls? It'd be like hitting
yes.
you with a wrecking ball, man.
I put someone in my car one time and I took them for a drive, and they said it the best analogy. He said it was like being hit with a truck in the back. Bam! He's never that acceleration. He's never been hit like that before.
Because it was funny because you'll hear the motor go wah, just like a normal naturally aspirated motor, and then it's like wah. The best way to put it is like not about being hit, but I always like the analogy where it's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you could have the most docile sounding street car and then just hammer it with some nitrous, and it's like a absolute killer.
Yeah. Andrew Nelson this is the truth. It's funny how things change. Years ago, we wanted a 373 410. Today, I'm pissed if the 8 doesn't have a 308 or 327. Right?
Well, the good thing is I think you can buy all the way down to like 240 or 221 gears, I think, for an 8.8. I looked at it before. I've actually considered taking my T-Bird out to what is it, Arkansas, for that mile thing, right? I mean, the body was designed to go 200 miles an hour. So, I've kind of already done everything I wanted to do with the car at this point. I don't know what else. I'm sure I'd have to add more cage. They would probably want more cage for.
But just to go out there to run it, I got to say that should be the next thing that we do. Is we're going to do a thing over here. But I think what I really believe is that we should all do like a group where we go to Batesville and we go to that mile and a half, and we all bring some just garbage and go out there and run that. That would just be awesome. That would just be he's saying that 221 is a myth. He's saying that.
Oh, okay. I was always told there was a 221 gear.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing, but but Dylan, you're absolutely right. Banging nitrous through an engine looks like a lot of fun. It is, and it's so easy to do because it's so like, as long as your engine's set up for it, you got the right end gap, you got the right pistons, you got right this, right that, and you got the right amount of timing come out of it. It's been done for so many years now. It's relatively safe, comparatively to what it used to be. And then, if you run what they tell you, that is really fat and happy. You can actually pull it a lot back. So you can pull fuel away from that, and you can add back timing from what the specs that they give you. Because it's really safe for basically all combinations. And I've got it pretty well set on my car. Even my car's runs way safe. It's a super safe tune. I could take that same setup and it could run, another 10th faster. But I do it on a nice safe tune because what do I care if it runs a 10th slower?
So Andrew Nelson says nitrous is addictive, and I can agree with that because you can see how my face lights up when we start talking about nitrous, and like I don't know, I guess I could compare it to a drug addiction, but it's like meth for the car, right?
Crack, right? It's like Coke. Yeah, it is addictive, and but you got to know your limit. Like what I mean by that is like, that the engine can handle, like if it makes 700, let's just make it an easy one, 700 horsepower, you could easily put 250 to 350 on that combination if it's set up for that 700 horse, and it'd be totally fine as long as the gaps are right. But here's the thing: once you get over 300 horsepower on nitrous, that's where things get tricky. I'm just being honest with you. 250 is a really safe number. 300 to 350. If it's a big block, you're totally fine. Small blocks, 300 is where the number kind of goes. You don't want to really run much more than that. You just the blocks. But if you had a big block Chevy, big block Mopar, Ford, especially, you can run a Ford. You could just spray the crap out of those things.
The one myth that I do want to test out,
sure,
the small block Buick on nitrous. That it's the deep skirted block like the LS, right?
Yep.
And dudes have been saying for years it is the absolute big block killer.
You want nitrous? I'll give you a plate,
dude. Well, I will try that out, but not right this second.
Okay.
But I will put it on a well, maybe I'll put it on the What If 300, and I'll put a Turbo 400 in the 63 Buick next year, and then see what it does. But
You just say the word, and I will get you set up with a nitrous setup that I designed.
How much can go through your plate?
Well, which one?
Do you have a plate that does 300?
Oh yeah, I've got a plate that does 600.
Oh, well, we'll need to talk. Yeah, I would like to feed all of it to a Buick small block, because it's supposedly it's one of the few that can actually do this, right?
Yeah.
And I really want to try it out, because I know what the small block Ford was like on a bunch of nitrous, and it was fun.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know
that the nitrous that we released, just that we're going to be running with a few people, but the one I just released last year, it's a dual stage kit, so it's 2 stages of nitrous that can go. Each one is 300 kit, right? So you could launch with a 150 kit, and then
that's what I want right there,
and then have 150 come in later, or 200 come in later.
Actually, I was going to do a 150 off the line, and then you do a progressive shot all the way up to the max 300, but you bring it in at 150 up to the 300.
Yeah. So what I would do is I would leave it. I would launch on the 150 kit on the bottom kit, and then the top kit is a progressive that can go all the way up to 300, so you can run up to 450. And that's literally how I was going to do it.
I have got an idea, and it's going to freak some people out.
Yeah,
we do. Yeah. I have a really good idea about this.
Okay. Yeah. So whenever you want to do that, I'll get you set up.
Yeah, well, the small block Buick is the V6 Buick, right?
Yeah,
the ones I play with, and then like you can see the V6 Buicks. I got some of them making 1,400 horse on. Be it it's a turbo, cylinder pressure, it's cylinder pressure. It doesn't know, right? So
Dr. Ghost says he has a 2.23 gear, but no engine to pull it with 28 tires, sure grip, and lockup. Wow.
I don't know what you see. It was always rumored that like the early Ford 8.8s came with like 221 gears, because you had an option to have, one of the trucks had an option to have a 4-speed manual, but I believe was granny low, and then it was only 1-to-1 in 4th gear, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's what it was, or it could have been a C5. I think a C5 was only a 3-speed with a lockup.
Hey, there's something going on right here in the chat. I'm going to just, me and you have told Levi this many times, but I'm just going to go back here. Levi says, Andrew, you're used to lightweight cars. I'm over here, 370s, 410s. We've been telling Levi for years, you don't need to do that. Go to a 355 or get even lower, 323. Here's what Andrew says. Levi, my 4,000 pounders are running 325s and needs a 3.0. Exactly, because you want to load the turbo.
The telltale for me was last year at the No Name Nationals, when you put John's girlfriend in the passenger seat, and it loaded the engine harder, and it made the fastest pass it's ever ran that weekend. And then you couldn't duplicate it again with no one in the seat beside you.
Yeah, I believe Dallas and I both told you the exact, almost like at the same time, 355 or a 323 would wake that car right up, because it would load that thing, and you would be able to carry that thing out and use the turbo.
Yeah, and you don't have to spin it as hard, so the maintenance is a lot less.
That's right. Exactly. Mean Street Mopar say, Dr. Go, are you building a 318 in your car, or are you building another 318 to replace the one in your car? Okay, well, sorry, this is the one I actually meant to hit. Sorry. I saw a 300 horse shot on my, 300 horse shot on my 454 in the 59, and we're all good yet. I'm not following that.
I think he's just talking about, he did a 300 shot on his 59 Chevrolet with the big block in it.
Oh yeah.
Still fine.
Yeah, totally fine.
I'll tell you what, I don't know how long you've been in hot rodding in this world. I mean, I'm sure, Shane, you've probably seen this, but way back in like 1998, 9, 2000 maybe, Steve Magnante used to work at Hot Rod Magazine.
Oh yeah.
Steve Magnante used to have some of the coolest little things that he did. And if you got Steve, they were really cool. If you didn't get Steve, you probably just passed his articles by.
They were awesome.
He was kind of eclectic, right?
Great.
But he did like the Bad Seed, which was the Chevette with a with a 500 cubic inch Cadillac in it that ran like, I don't remember, 1170s using junkyard everything, right? Like they didn't buy a single part. Anyway, he did an article maybe 97, 98, 99, somewhere around there, where I don't remember the name of it. Maybe it was something demon, where he had a rubber demon mask on. It was green. And he took a 318 in like a duster and he sprayed it until like it was to blow up. The whole idea was how much nitrous can you spray on a stock engine? It was a stock 318.
Mm-hmm.
And he got up to like 325 horse. And he was like, it sounds like an absolute animal.
I remember this. I remember this article.
And it fell on its face. And the ignition, it started blowing the ignition out because the factory ignition couldn't keep up with the amount of nitrous. The cylinder pressure would blow the spark out. So he fixes it by putting an MSD box on it and an aftermarket electronic distributor, I think, an MSD distributor.
Mm-hmm.
Went to the track. It did like 350, maybe 400 horse before it let go. And I mean, it really let go. It broke rods and
everything.
Yeah, it was just he was sweeping that thing up into a dustpan when it was done. But it was fine all the way up to like 350. And that's with cast pistons, ungapped rings, cast rings, all the stuff they say don't use. He was using it, and now how long will it last? Probably not very long.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a season out of something like that. But a weekend, if you just had to rub somebody's nose in it, man, that would really fix things real quick.
Yeah, and when I say 300 horse, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is that even on my engine, when I run 300 horse, I'll make sure the timing is right because your timing is everything. And I run a crank trigger because when you're dealing with 1 degree or 2 degrees making a huge difference, if you have any fluctuation in your timing, that's a problem. So that's what I'm getting is once you get to 300, things become critical. That's your ignition system, your timing retard, and the fuel delivery system for the secondary for the nitrous system. And usually it's a good idea to have a dedicated system at that point. But that's what I'm talking about is that kind of stuff. But yes, the engine will survive it. But it's just everything that's onto it, that goes to it. And I've ran so much 250 shots through 360s. It's ridiculous. That set up a 250 shot through basically a factory 360 with hypertentic pistons with just gapped rings and a camshaft. It lasted almost a year and a half once I figured out the combination. And I ran that piss onto that thing, and it didn't break. I took it apart to freshen it up, put it right back together with new rings and bearings, and ran it more until I stroked the engine. And in fact, I posted a video just recently. That was the engine that I raced the Supra, the black Supra in a match race. Was that old 360? That was the one that was in the car because I had the other one out being stroked. But that was just a 360 in the car with like 660s at the time, I think is what it was. No nitrous. That was just a 360 engine.
Well, I'm really intrigued, and I really want to play with some nitrous on a Buick small block because, like I said, the rumor has it that there was some legit street racing going down, and the dude to beat was the small block 350 Buick in a Skylark that showed up and just freaking murdered people.
You tell me when, I'll get you a kit. I'm telling you right now.
I want to try it on a 300. I really do. That's what I want to try it on. 300 Buick, and I'm trying it on the What If 300.
It's a pretty dope setup because it's got a purge valve and it purges through the solenoids. So instead of having 2 purge valves, it's 1 purge valve that goes through the solenoids. So that way the nitrous is purged through it, and the nitrous lines are only 4 inches long, and the fuel lines are only 4 inches long. They're not 12.
So yeah.
So it hits right now,
instantaneous. Yeah,
it's fast.
Well, I used to run them 2. Well, I guess they're both considered plate systems, but on a fuel injected 5-liter Ford, you had an upper intake plenum and a lower intake plenum, right? So the upper one, I had one that was behind the throttle body that was a 150 shot, but I found that it would go up to like 275, but it would pool fuel
Mm-hmm.
in the bottom,
Yes.
right? In the run, like in the plenum itself.
Yeah. Then you put the one that was in the middle. Did you put that one in where it goes between
the goes underneath the intake manifold? I did.
Yes.
Okay, so I had two of those. I had the one that went behind the throttle body and the one that went at the bottom.
Yeah.
And what you do is you're supposed to put nitrous and fuel on the bottom one and nitrous and fuel on the top one, right? What I ended up doing was it would always pool the fuel because the fuel would fall out of suspension going through that big long intake manifold.
Yes.
And so what I did was I ran 30 pound per hour injectors when it ran like crap at idle, but I got rid of the fuel side on the 150 shot.
So you just dry system.
I just made a dry system out of it.
Yeah,
right.
That's good.
And then on the bottom, and I would do 150 to 200 on the plate behind the throttle body, and then at the bottom is the one that I'd lean on the hardest because it wouldn't pool fuel.
That's right.
Right. And so, but the sad part was like you would have to really pay attention to plugs because those freaking intake manifolds are so bad at air distribution. It's just about like your inline six stuff, right? Where it's like, what it'd be like number 1 and number 8 cylinders would be the leanest, right? And so if you ran a 30 pound per hour injector system on your car, in those cylinders, you'd run a 36 pounder in just those cylinders because I think that's right. It would be so lean on those outer ones because they get the most air for some reason.
Yeah.
But it would screw everything up bad, and it got worse on nitrous. It just compounded.
Dr. Go saying that Mean Street, he's not sure yet. He's collecting parts to build a 318. It's kind of his original engine, but time and circumstances will tell. Yeah, I understand that. Fab Race Mod Repeat. I can never say why can't say the thing. Dallas Shane, don't forget the 125 kit on the tickle switch. 100%.
What do they call that? The scramble button?
Scramble button. That's exactly what it was. Mine was a 150 kit. Was the scramble button.
Oh, dude. I remember when you showed up with that, we were running the 28-10-5, and you almost handed the baddest car on the property's ass second round and missed a gear.
Yes, I know. I was pulling away from him. You know what I mean? I actually had to pull. I was running a 200 kit that day. I was running 200 kit on that car. And that car just left. And I was like, oh, this guy's done.
Dylan Levi saying, when I use my second gear to leave, I can't leave on enough boost. My next time out, I'm going to be trying to leave on 20 pounds of boost. I don't think second gear is what's.
You just do the
math. It will load it. It will load it. But I'm telling you, I think the best thing to do is it'll pull harder. I noticed your mile an hour is almost the same as mine, right? And my car is naturally aspirated.
Yeah.
You should be doing like,
at least
570s, 580s at 125 miles an hour, 130 miles an hour.
Yeah, because I'm doing I did a 579 or was a 578. I can't remember what it was, 124 miles an hour. So you should be there too. I mean, you should be at that same number. And when you did that he did a 585. What was his speed? Do you remember?
I think it was on like 110 or 114. It wasn't super high. And I'm like, man, I'm pulling those kind of mile an hour. That thing should be mile an hour like mad.
Yeah.
Not to say I'm a pro on any of the turbo stuff. I'm not. But I've watched enough turbo Buicks in my life go down the track to know that the mile an hour is generally way higher on a turbo car. And that's where they really come on. Especially bracket racing. You would bracket race them at the 660-foot mark. You better be looking for that car because it's going to come on you, and you're going to have to make a judgment call at the stripe.
Yeah. Andrew Nelson is saying something here, and I'll explain why I'm saying this. 5.3 with a 300 shot lasts longer than you would have ever guessed, just saying. And it's exactly right because it has a crank trigger. It has to do with the ignition system. It's got a really efficient head on it, and it works well. On the older engines, if you can just get away from that distributor type of ignition, that's where you start to have a problem after a 300 shot. You can probably get away with just 150 to 200 shot, but the second you get close to that 300 number, ignition is super important because it just wants to blow. And then this is directed towards you. Go ahead and read this one.
be very cautious blowing a lot of juice into a big block Buick. The bore size is too big. I would only juice a small block Buick. The bore is small enough to live. Oh yeah, I would never juice the big block Buick because, well, to be honest with you, the bore size probably has a lot to do with the downfalls of the big block Buick. I guess it depends which big block you want to choose, but the Buick is all made bigger by bore. That's it. Yeah. So the 400 Buick became the 430 Buick by boring it. And then the 430 became the 455 by boring it. And they all have the same 3.9-inch stroke crank. And the downside was it was the first big block with lightweight casting. The GM forced Buick Olds Pontiac, well, actually Buick, to do it first because it was the least number of sales. So in case they had problems, they could fix a few cars instead of a ton, right?
Yeah.
And so the block was too weak. And there was literally just a comment about this the other day on Facebook. Somebody was like, hey, my number 7 rod spun. And I've said on here a million times, they always spin, the big block Buicks always spin the number 7 rod. And that's because they're starving for oil at that time. And that's usually the one that gives up. But the block is so weak that the engine makes so much torque, it actually flexes the block.
Wow.
And it pinches off number 4 main, I think is what is happening. Right? I think that's right. See, I think it's number 4. And that's why 7 starves. And so that's my theory on it. I'll never be able to probably.
What's the bore size on a big block Buick? The 455?
4.312.
Okay, because you said the stroke was 3.9, right? You said the stroke was 3.9, because a big block Mopar is 3.75 on a 440, and it's 331 on a 400, or 338 or something like that.
Right. So, but you're not using a thin wall casting.
No, but I guess what I'm getting at is that the 400 to me worked the best with nitrous because it had a big bore, short stroke.
I think the big bore size, I know it makes them work good. There was a guy out in San Diego that used to run out there. He had it was a 71 Skylark painted to look like a GSX. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember if you ever seen that run out there, Shane, but it was stupid wheelies and all kinds of stuff. This thing was like probably a 9-second street car way back in the 90s, and that would have been fast.
I had a 400 in the Cookie Monster for a long time. I loved that engine, and I ended up blowing it up running nitrous, but it was because I was running too much of a kit on a distributor drive. That's what happened. Is I ran too big of a kit, and I think him saying about the bore size, it kind of makes sense. I mean, that's the biggest bore a Chrysler ever had was in the 400, but I was only running a 250 kit. But I think what happened was it either, because it's got that slot in it, either mistimed or whatever, but I heard a pop as it was going, and then it basically just, once it popped, it couldn't even let it throttle fast enough. It was already done. The nitrous that was already in the plenum basically was just eaten through the engine and separated everything. Basically, the pistons exited, stage left.
the cool thing about the Buicks that they make good torque already, mm-hmm. right? And then so what's neat about nitrous or any power hour for that matter, it doesn't really matter which one. It's just cylinder pressure. But nitrous is the easy one to like do the math on. If it's a 150 shot of nitrous oxide, it's going to give you 150 horsepower, but it's probably going to give you like, say, 300 foot-pounds of torque, right? Maybe 250, something like that. But you can really just take your normal numbers for your engine and then just add 150 on top of everything, right? And then that's going to give you a good idea of where you're going to be at horsepower and torque-wise. And those Buicks make so much good low-end torque that number spikes significantly higher, but they're also very prone to detonation. So you got to be a very conservative tuner because there'll be even more. It's literally like, I don't know, Bruce Banner and the Hulk, right? There's still Bruce Banner, but the Hulk is much more awesome on top of Bruce Banner.
So here's a thing for Pistons. Question: do you need more ring gap if you have gas-ported pistons, since the ring will seat harder to the bore? Absolutely not. No. I've never done that. The pistons on my engine right now are gas ported, and I didn't actually make the gap any bigger. I had to take it apart in 24 to open up the gap before the nitrous, but I didn't have to open the gap anymore because of the gas ported pistons. See here, go on down. See if Dylan Levi says that when he ran his car to 60 in a decent track, I can't go 570s on 127. When I get my car to 60 on a decent track, I can't go. I think he can go, I think is what he's trying to say. 570s at 127, which that's about right. Because that's actually a little higher mile an hour. Yeah, because I went a 572, I think, is a 125, and then when I went 558 in the car, it was almost a 130 something, 131. So, Calvin ran an 845 at 166, leaving in second. Yes, I saw that. He meant 166, leaving in second.
I did see that too. That's right.
Yeah.
So
right.
You know what? It's got to be something else. That's the culprit here.
Well, also too, but remember that was in the quarter.
Yeah, and that's also in that
red car,
the Ameribear motor that they're using, the Atlas.
Atlas, right? Yeah.
And so,
and he shows the time slip in that. If you go back and watch that, I would love to. I would like to see what his 8th mile was. But Levi saying that he can go 60 foot in the 120s, he'll go 130. The issue is first gear just obliterates the tire. Yeah, that's why you need gear. If you had a gear, it wouldn't obliterate it, and that way you could carry first longer, and then you can carry second. And it's not leaving in second. If you did the math in second with your gear, if you just be right below that, but above first, and that's where you want to be, just do the math for that. So that way, when you shift to second, you're up here again. And that way you're loaded and you carry the gear longer. Dallas Buick Talk explains why I always have losing numbers 7 rod in the 455 Vega.
Yeah, if you went to, I came up with a theory. I really would like to try it out, and I don't think it's RPM. I think it's the block flexibility. I have a 400 Buick, which has a 4040 bore, and it has the same stroke, same crank rods, pistons. Well, not pistons. Of course, they're smaller, but I do believe that that block has, like I said, the bore is all the difference, right? So if you think about it, that block adds up pretty much to having 2 inches more of cast iron material in the block, right? In the bore, around the bore. And I think that is going to be the what changes the whole outcome, right? Is that all that extra material around the cylinder walls, I do believe is going to make the block stronger, less flexible, and it'll handle more RPM.
Yeah. Levi's saying that he's on the market for a 370. He just can't afford one. Budget smaller due to the economy racing schedules being halved. Yeah, totally get that. And then Andrew comes back and says that number 7 spins because it shares oil with number 6, and on the Buick, it's the last one fed.
No, number 8 is fed last.
I'm just reading what he said.
But
he says that number 8 is fed by itself. So what he's
saying is fed by itself. That's correct.
Yeah, so it's fed by itself. So that way it's number 7. It's the last one to be fed, but it's being fed by 2. So it's actually using more oil. But Wheelie King here, 400 Chrysler is a bad Mama Jamma. I consider myself a 383 guy, but only because there were dirt cheap, but the 400 is a shiz. I agree. Everybody was scrambling back in the 90s for the 440, but the first time I rebuilt my very first 400, I said, this has got the biggest piston, short stroke, it's shorter in deck, it makes it stronger. I'm like, this is the engine that I'm going to start building. And I started buying them all up, and I ran the crap out of them. And I agree with you. Those 400 Chrysler engines spent a long time underappreciated. I agree. I've been saying that to people forever. That's why I loved them. I could never find a 340, but I went to the 360 just because it was close enough and I could go 40 over. But if I had a choice, it would be the 400 all day long just because of the bore size. Car's been 571 stick, and it's been
On
580s
slick.
on radials. Oh, on slick. I'm sorry. And that was past the wear bar. Okay. Oh, Mr. John Wilburn's here. How's it going, man?
Okay, so Buick Smith is saying, Dallas, so do you want a numerically lower rear gear on a nitrous setup, like on a turbo setup to load it? You don't really need to. You don't need to load it because the turbo. Okay, so when you're loading the turbo application, it loads the engine, which loads the turbo,
Yes,
which
exactly.
feeds more air, right, and gives it more boost. On a nitrous application, you don't have to do that, but you will find yourself using a numerically lower gear number just for the mile an hour, right? Like, let's say you're running a 373 gear. You might find that you want to go to a 355. The problem with nitrous is a little bit more manageable with turbo than what's wrong with nitrous. Nitrous, when it detonates one time, it's all over.
Done.
You're done. And there's going to be a pan full of metal pieces,
Yeah.
glitter, confetti.
Now, up to a certain horsepower number, I just run them like a regular car. As I would launch the car in first gear, and I typically wouldn't use the nitrous in first gear when I was racing on the street, and I would use the nitrous basically in second gear or halfway through first. And I would just kind of tickle it in first, pull it in second, then hold the button down. But it's a whole different animal because on nitrous, it's instant torque, and that's the highest torque you're going to see because the same amount of nitrous goes in. So as the RPM increases, you're making less power each time. Each RPM is less because it's only spraying in so much. The engine needs so much more because of the RPM, so the torque falls off rapidly. So it only makes as much as when you first did it. So that's the reason why I capitalized. I built a car designed around nitrous so that way I can capitalize on it and use it. But if you're driving around the street, typically on those, I would just run like Dal said earlier, run a lower stall than you would normally have because it's going to want to flash it. And I would typically just flicker it. Well, now you have progressive systems, but at the time I would just flicker it. And then as soon as I pulled second, I would just hold the button down, and then I would just hold the button into the third. And then depending on how far ahead of the guy I was, if I was going into third, I would release the button so you couldn't hear it turn off when it shifted gears. And so then that way the guy would try to catch me and he would get close. And then I could race his buddy for more money. So that's usually how I did it.
I did it with a micro switch on the mechanical throttle linkage on the 5-liter Ford, to where it just ran to a relay, and the relay would just run the whole system once the relay was armed, right? But and I did it off the dig. That's the place you're not supposed to do it.
I didn't do
off
that.
the dig, and ooh man, is it fun because it comes out hard, and it'll feel like you're launching twice, is what it feels like.
Yeah,
because it'll take off a little bit and then it'll slam it back.
It throws you back in the seat.
And that's when you know you got a good pass.
Yeah, I never had the tires on the street. I was mostly on dirt track tires at that point, so I couldn't hit it that hard, and I was running dirt track tires like 13 pounds.
So I ran. My system was originally it was just two 150 kits, right? So I just run a 150 off the line, and then the other one was set up on a timer because it was before they had progressive systems. It was just a timer.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other one would come in at 2 seconds. So I was doing like a 148, 130, 60-foot time, somewhere around there. And so you just wanted to be out of first gear within the first 2 seconds. Right. And usually what it was is like you'd launch the car and you feel that second hit coming, you just smack it in a second. And then the top kit would come in and it just hammer down. And that's when it would like the car would they do weird stuff when all that nitrous comes in and they're not meant for it. Like the car would crinkle up like this, right? And it would it was like his ass was trying to run over its front end.
Yeah.
They're fun.
Dr. Go saying that he had a 400 in a Chrysler Town & Country 9-passenger wagon. It would ping going uphill and then downshift where the 72 440 lugged up the hill, no torque, no downshift, but the 77 had auto leveling shocks. Yeah,
Oh, I see what he's saying now. Yeah, so he's saying 7 and 6 get half the oil, and 8 gets all the oil.
exactly.
The other thing that makes sense is if you think about it, the way it's getting fed is through the main oil gallery going all along the lifter bank, right? So you would think the ones that get the most oil is generally number 1 and number 8, because once it gets in that straight line going through the lifter valley or the lifter gallery all the way to the back, it's going to stay in that straight line rather than turn,
Hmm.
right? So you're probably right. Number 8 does get fed by itself. So 6 and 7 splits the oil, but since 7 is further aft, it has less volume and less pressure.
Yeah.
Well, probably the same pressure, but less volume.
So Levi's saying the Andrew, the car will need gear anyways fairly soon. It's got quite a few passes on it and a slew of street miles. I would agree. I honestly, a 370 or a 355 would probably be in your future. Just if you want, I can just do the math. Just multiply first and your gear ratio together, and then do the exact same thing, and then do it with second gear, and then try to find your a gear ratio that'll put you just about in the middle right there. So you're not really in second, but you're not really in first, and then start there. But yeah, that's that way you load it. I'm with Andrew and Dallas on this 100%. It needs more. It needs numerically lower gear.
And he's saying he's thinking of 370. I'm kind of wondering, you said 370, is that a 9-inch Ford in that car?
I think it is.
If it's a 9-inch Ford, dude, you should be able to go get like a freaking 355 out of almost anything. That was like standard common gear, or is it 350? 350 is like a standard common gear in a lot of Fords.
Yeah.
Andy's saying that Unimotor subscriber said that. I call that make something happen mode. I guess when the car gets scrunched up like this, where it's trying to run over its own ass.
Right. Yeah. Calvin ran a 554 at 134, leaving in second. Yeah, I agree with that. That's actually really high mile an hour. I went a 558 at 131. I think is what my car did.
Matthew Ward says, would high mileage have the same effect as increasing ring gap for nitrous? Yes. And a lot of the 5.3 guys, this is how they get away with it. But I mean, this all came down to the 5-liter Fords in the junkyard. That was the ticket, was to find the one with 200,000 miles. If you could find an HO motor with 200,000 miles, it would actually last almost the whole season spraying the crap out of it.
Yeah. And I agree with you 100%. And that's the reason why I want to design this 2-stage nitrous. You can tailor the nitrous hit on the hit, and then you can tailor the progressive system as it goes down the track. So Bozeman used to say, if you aren't spraying when the hammer drops, you already lost. And I agree with that 100%. If sometimes, and John, yesterday I was talking about No Name Nationals, and I was telling someone, imagine as a well-prepped street. What I was referring to is that it's not prepped. It's just that when hard tires go down the track, it changes the dynamic of the track. So it's prepped well, but it's prepped as well as like a really, really, really good street. It's not like a slick prep, because hard tires go down it, and it really changes it to the point where that whenever you go to any of these drag and drive events, the very last cars that go down the track are hard tire cars for that reason. I think we caught up.
I think we are caught up, man. And tonight's going by so fast. It's like an hour and 40 minutes. I guess I'm just having fun talking about nitrous. I love that stuff, man.
I do too.
I did stuff like order food at the drive-through and then pull up to the window, like spray it 100 feet.
I did. I love nitrous, and the sound your engine makes. I remember the very first time I sprayed this engine with nitrous was at Jackson. And I think I was telling you that night, I was like, man, I called you up and I said, I've done this, this, and this. But man, the first time I launched that car and it, with this engine the way it was, and it sprayed nitrous, the whole tone of the engine changed. It literally was just a completely different engine. You're like, whoa, that was something.
It's cool. I watched the No Name Nationals 2 years ago when you when we went out there with the 28-10-5 when we were literally outgunned, right? Like
Yep.
all the heavy hitters showed up, and they were there to take that. What they used to call it, punching puppies. I don't know, something like
Yeah.
that.
Shooting
They were there
fish.
to take our lunch money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, and I pulled Polito first round, and then they're like, "Oh wait, we screwed up. The chip draw is wrong because we didn't have this chip in there." And it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh right,
Oof,
we
thank
get a
God.
redraw." And
The
then
one thing we didn't want to happen was
yielding.
pull each other. The
Huh?
first thing we didn't want to happen was pull each other. And what do? We pull each other. I'm like,
Yeah.
that just sucks, man.
But then I pulled yielding, and I'm like, "Is that his name? Yingling?
Yeah, yeah.
Yielding. Yeah, Michael Yielding." And that dart was stupid fast.
Yeah. Andrew Nelson saying 370s would work on a 30-inch tire. You want under 350s if you're running a 20 tire. I would do the math. What works for you. I'm with Andrew on this one. I really am, because it just wants load. So yeah. You know what's funny? As I'm going to say something here, and I'm actually skipping ahead. But yes, in fact, back in the 90s, when I used to drive for a guy it was a turbo Honda, right? And I used to drive for him. We would go down and get these turbos are way too big for these Hondas. You could never get them to spool. So literally what we did is, and I'm telling you right now, this is what we really did. Nobody fucking believes in me that we did this. We ran a dry nitrous system into the exhaust manifold, and we would overshoot the fuel into it, and the fuel running through, you'd shoot the nitrous in there, and it would literally instantly light that turbo. So on a Honda where you have this like HX35, let's just say it's like, 95.
That's what's on a diesel Dodge truck.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah. And it was way too big for a 1.8, Honda, B series Honda. So we would literally light the nitrous. We didn't run it through the engine. We ran it through.
Here, SSR Performance says right here, Buick Smith, absolutely. If you really want to load it, spray it in the exhaust.
Oh yeah, exactly. I did that back in the 90s, and it was absolutely the best thing ever, because you'd be in first gear and you'd go bum 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 bum, because those things would never really go anywhere. As soon as you would pull second gear, it literally would drop the boost pressure, but you would hit that button, that thing would light, and you could see the flame, because we were running it right out of the hood at that time, and you would see the flame shoot out, and you knew that thing was lit. And you didn't have to load it for very long. As soon as you hit it and that thing would shoot flame, you just let off the button, and you would just use it in between gears to light the turbo back off.
Well, I guess I'll throw my 2 cents in. Back in the 80s, because that's the Turbo Buicks came out in 87, right? Like they were actually came out in 83. Well, technically, if you want to take it all the way back to 78, that's when they came out. But 83 is when the Grand National kind of came into its own, where from 83 to 87, they were kind of similar. Way back when, you couldn't buy bigger turbos. They weren't like available anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. You'd have to find ones that were off of other applications. And what guys were using was like semi-truck turbos, or the big one used to be heavy equipment turbos.
Yeah.
You can get a turbo off of like a D7 Dozer. Okay. And you put it on this little puny V6 Buick, and they couldn't get them spooled at all. You couldn't load the engine enough to spool that turbo. It was absolutely so lazy. But the things that they ended up doing was you would have guys spraying with nitrous to get the turbo going. They said, when you put it in the exhaust housing, that'll get it going, because that's what's actually needing to spin anyway to get the inducer going. There was other kits that were compressed air kits that you could spray in there to spin the exhaust the turbine on the exhaust side. And you're talking nitrous on the exhaust side. That's like usually the bottle's like 1100 psi, something like that.
950.
950.
Yeah.
Okay. The compressed air ones are like 3000 psi, and you'd use like a Scott air pack, like a SCBA air pack, and you would run that to spin the turbo up. And that's how they used to do it back in the 90s. Lawrence Connolly had a turbo Buick called Tweaked at like 92 that was doing the compressed air on the exducer side. Is that right? Exducer. Anyway, I was never big into the turbo Buicks. I mean, the sad part about them is if you didn't have a T-type, they were all black. And then you couldn't tell them apart from any other black car.
Yeah.
And they were so inconsistent. That was the thing, is like out of 10 passes, you'd have one blistering ass pass. The other 9, the thing could be popping and farting and snorting all the way down the track and then like run like a bag of crap. And without the turbo, it was just a V6 Buick.
Andrew Nelson says something. It was Futura ran a 1.360 on 308s, and it goes slower 60s with the 350. I would totally believe that, and I think that if Dylan changed his gears, he would be right there. Now, yes, on another topic, when you're going to make that fiberglass hood.
Oh, it's coming, man. And you just wait. So right now, everything's having to deal with priority, right? Right now, I got to get the car functional and running, because I can't race if it doesn't run. But I can race without doors or a hood, right? And then I'll get the doors and the hood and the trunk lid and the glass and all that stuff in it. But the hood is probably going to be the last thing I do. The good thing was at my birthday party, Mohawk 62 spent a lot of time on that
hood,
building it up so we could level it out, because it was so wrinkled and so damaged. And I probably still got to build it up some more, to be honest with you. But
I've never actually seen that done in my life, because I've never seen body work in front of me done, because I grew up in San Diego. So that was really, really interesting to see how that worked. Yeah. So Matthew's saying that he heard nitrous has an integral effect for turbos. It does. It absolutely does. We just didn't.
Out at negative 360 degrees.
It's cold. Yeah. I don't know the exact number. It depends on where the jet's at, but it's really cold. But here's the thing, though, is that at that time we were scared to double power add a Honda at that point. We just were nervous about it. So we were just trying to light the turbo, because we knew how to tune for the turbo. We just didn't know how to tune that for turbo and nitrous. And we were all on a budget back in the 90s. And I was just a foot at that point. I was just basically driving the car. But yeah, we would just run to the exhaust, and it worked really bitching. Now, Bigfoot's Mopar saying the Moroso slide calculator had me 410s, 30-inch tires shifting at 6,100 RPM. That's not including slippage. So you got to add 7% slip to that, or at least maybe 7 to 10. So that way you can find out your RPM that way. Just add that 10% in.
So Bigfoot's Mopar's up here says, so would a Roots blower car want the lower gear, or since the boost comes in faster, use a higher gear? Well, that you're going to capitalize on the torque with that Roots blower. And with the torque, generally you're looking at numerically lower gears. You probably want to drop 2 gear sets from naturally aspirated. Just go 2 gear changes down.
Yeah.
For that turbo, or for that super Roots blower.
And James says the best here. The Roots blower makes boost right off, right off RPM. Idle. So keep that, right off of idle. So just keep that in mind, because it's literally instant torque. So you basically, whatever power adder, that's how you can set it up. But yeah, that's the thing. But Andrew's saying that it's better to shoot the intake. The increased mass flow kicks the turbo 2 revolutions later. Shooting the exhaust side hurts things too easily. No, I agree with you. I'm just telling you what we did back then, because we just don't want to have 2 power adders, because we didn't know how to tune it. But yes, it does. But it really lit that turbo, man. You could just see it light instantly, whamm, and you would hit.
I've seen guys do like a 50 shot to get the turbos going. When you get too big of a turbo. I think it's what it is the X-juicer size, I think, is what dictates how fast that spools, or how much load it can put onto the turbo to spin it.
Yeah,
that's what.
Basically,
I'm sorry.
I would say it's just basically putting in pure oxygen, so all the fuel that's not being burnt is literally being burnt. Yeah, and it turns it into literally a jet engine at that point, and you could feel
turbo
it. Yeah, right. He's saying that he got you pretty close. So
He did. He built it up a lot. I mean, and that's really what it needed, was just somebody that was familiar with body work, just to layer it, because it's just a plug,
yeah,
right? So it's not going to be used. I mean, the Bondo in real world would probably just, the first bump the hood would fall into like 20 pieces.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm just going to make a plug out of it, and then the mold, and then the hood.
Yeah. See you later, Andrew. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good night. Have a good week. Yeah, Fab is saying that he could also feed with a bigger turbo to a small turbo. Yes, but we didn't have the funds for that. And I don't even believe it was an HX35. I think it was just an H35. It was like the very first version of that turbo, but it was still way too big.
The whole set version turbo. Yeah. Okay. That came on like the 87s, what was the X? Is the X is where it's
I don't
external,
know.
It has the external wastegate on it.
Could be. I don't remember, but yeah, it wasn't.
I think so.
I remember we had to put a blow off valve on it because it literally would just keep making boost. It would make way more boost than we could ever use.
Miss Catchy's saying that Richard Holdner did a single turbo on a 4-barrel 351 Cleveland and 700 horsepower with 7 psi or so.
Sounds about right.
Animal Jim Foyer told me when I started doing the AHRA, he and I were really tight, and he wanted to see me succeed, and that's where he got his start, was running pro stock in AHRA. And when the AHRA came out with the rule where you could run nitrous on a small block, and then they could have an unlimited big block, Animal Jim was the nitrous small block guy. And he said, I tried all kinds of small blocks, but the Cleveland was the most responsive to nitrous that I'd ever put together, which is interesting. And I never, but I guess if you think about it, the Cleveland, they flow good air anyway.
Yeah.
You fill it with a bunch of nitrous oxide with more oxygen, it's going to run even better.
Yeah, you're basically creating a vacuum and letting those heads actually be used.
Yeah.
Johnny's saying that he always got a kick out driving his parents' 79 turbo Century 4-door. Yeah, turbos are great stuff. I love them. I don't want to deal with all the plumbing, and I like nitrous for the easy button, and up to about, I would say 550s, 530s in that range. It's a pretty easy button for most people.
So that Turbo Century 4-door that he's talking about is, remember that car I got last year, that 78?
Called
Clarence Cobblepot.
That's it.
They would have had the 4-door version, which you couldn't even tell them apart. They look the same. Oh, he could have had a 2-door sedan that didn't have the big sloping back window, but I'm sure it did. Dallas, would the 4.1 to 4.5 liter Rover motors be a good candidate for nitrous or turbos with its 6-bolt mains, or is the block too weak? Okay, that 4 liter to 4.5 liter, I think it's actually 3.9 to 4.6 liter, I believe, is that family of engine. All of them, they're based on a Buick small block, which in my research, the Buick small block was developed in the 215 that everybody's familiar with was essentially developed in 1953. They did one of those experimental models where it was a turbocharged 215 aluminum engine I think they call it the Buick Skylark. And the engine went into production in 1960, late 1960. Okay. And it was originally designed to have a turbo on it. So they all like cylinder pressure. Okay. That's the same engine family. The problem with that late of an engine is the sleeves apparently come out of the blocks. Right. So they are not a stepped sleeve. They're like a pressed in sleeve or a cast in sleeve. And when you rev them up high enough or you put enough load on them and twist the block is not weak by any means. They're a 6-bolt main, and they were ribbed from the factory. They're heavy duty, but the sleeves tend to lift and push out. And I'm sure there might be some more Rover folks in here from across the pond that can chime in, but that's the word on the street is those Rover, that generation of Rover, they slip the sleeves.
Yeah.
And so the best thing to do is if you're going to try one of those, take it to the machine shop, have them bore that sleeve out, and then slide in the newer Darton style sleeves that they use like in the LS blocks and stuff. Or what's the other one? Coyote uses sleeves that they put in them.
Matthew's saying that he wants to spray his 2004 Crown Vic, thinking of getting some injectors from Flex Fuel Vic and universal kit and tuning. Absolutely. You could just put literally a nozzle right into the inlet right there. And it's just basically, it's just a nitrous and a fuel line that goes right in, and it could screw right in, and you could change your jets on it, and it really would make a difference. It would be awesome.
The easiest way to do it is what they used to have a kit. NOS used to make a kit that just had, what is it? Just a fogger, just a one fogger nozzle. You just drill it and tap it to 1/8 inch pipe tap, thread it down in there, and then spray away, my friend.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying, is that it has a nitrous that goes like this, and then a fuel line that comes in like this, and then they mix and they just fog the whole system.
Do you guys have anything like that?
Huh?
Do you guys have anything like that? Do you make anything like that one?
No comment right now.
Okay.
Yeah, no comment on that.
I was wondering because like the Fords were eating, especially like anything between 2008 and before.
Mm-hmm.
They used to have a Schrader valve on the fuel rail, which was right there where you needed it, right? So they had like an adapter. They made an adapter that you could thread onto that Schrader valve, take the fitting out of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you put like a 4AN on that and run it right to the nitrous or the fuel solenoid, and then put your jet in there.
Yep, exactly. That's the easy button. So we're getting down to the few minutes here. Have you been filming any of this Buick stuff that you're doing?
No, I suck.
No.
But I mean, some of it's like, okay, today I spent 4 hours just grinding and trying to make things look nice on those headers I had to make. So no one wants to see that, and it's going to end up on the cutting room floor anyway. So I think the best thing to do is say, I think I need some headers, twang, and then all of a sudden the video, like, there's headers. No one needs to see how I made them. Plus, it took me 4 months to make the driver's side one and a month to make the passenger side one.
I'm thinking about whenever I do a video of me building something, I'm going to make 2 videos of it. One is the edited version where people just see the highlights and basically what YouTube has. I'm going to make another video where literally it's everything that's just a dump. So that way you can see literally every step. It just doesn't magically appear. Like, this is 3 days of work to get it to where this is at right now.
Well, how does everybody else do it? I mean, when I record stuff, I bet 90% of it gets cut.
Oh yeah.
It's easy 90%, and it's only 10% that I put in the video.
Yeah, so I do the same thing, but I got pretty efficient. If I'm really working on something, I will show, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I do it, and then I just show, hey, this is after the words, and I don't talk much about it, so that way I don't go long-winded, but that way I could just, it makes it easier to make the video for myself, because I'm only documenting my builds.
So Buick Smith says, Dallas, it was the 51 LeSabre 215 Hemi head supercharged with alcohol injection. Okay. Well, I was wrong. I thought it was supposed to be a turbo.
Yeah. But well, anyways, man.
Yeah, it is. I guess that it's that time.
It's about that time, man. We're getting there. So anyways, thanks for everyone coming by. Don't forget, thank Waff Racing for having Dallas and I. Basically, he's the one that brings this to you. And go and see. If you have nothing to do on Saturday and you want to go check something out, I think I still have it here on my screen. No, I don't. But go look at, I just posted up here earlier. Go to the shop. It's actually going to be cool. There's going to be a lot of people there, and it's a good 6-hour hangout. So come and check that out. But with that, man, any last things you want to say?
No, I do need to start filming some stuff, and I have backlogs of hours of video. I need to probably just go through, cut it all up, and put it together and poop out a video.
Yeah, call it the greatest hits of me doing this type thing. Yeah.
Well, no, it's just everything that I did on this 63 Buick up until now.
Yeah. Well, with that, guys, you guys have a great week. You guys take it easy, and we'll see you guys next week. And don't forget to go see Mr. John Wilburn on his channel, Friday Central, John Wilburn, and he's always got something going on. So You guys have a great week.